scholars. I'm sorry that I can't be there with you today, but I wanted to go through this slide deck with you. So, we're going to be starting over the next week looking at the First World War. And we're going to talk about how it started today. While you guys are at home during the e-learning today, you're going to look at what America did before they joined the war. And then after that, we'll take a look at what the American home front looked like. And then finally, we'll talk about the end of the war. In this class, we're not necessarily worried about military history as we are social history. So when you're looking at a war through the lens of social history, you're more looking at the impact the war had, what led up to the war, not necessarily battles and figures like that. So let's go ahead and get started. So a couple of just general information about the war is it started on July 28th, 1914, and it ended on November 11th, 1918. Almost 8 million people died because of the war, Russia having lost the most, about 1.7 million. About 22 million soldiers were wounded out of everyone who fought. The map of Europe greatly changed because of this conflict. Let's take a look. So, this is the map in 1914, before the war started. You'll see that Germany here is rather large. So is Russia. We have the Austro-Hungarian Empire here, the Balkan states here, and all of that. Then, after the war, it really splits off. So the Austrian-Hungarian Empire is really split up. Russia becomes the USSR, but it loses a lot of. But Germany and Russia lose a lot of land. So that really breaks up. We even see here that that Great Britain has been split up too, but we're not going to end up talking about that today. So let's go ahead and get started with the causes of World War II. Why did this map split up the way it did when it did, and why the Europe specifically, and then the greater world because of it, went to war to begin with. So it really starts with MAINIA. So MAINIA is a good acronym to remember because it outlines the five causes of World War One. So the M in MAINIA stands for militarism, which is a policy of building up a strong military to prepare for war, practically an arms race. Alliances or agreements between nations to provide aid and protect one another. European powers formed rival alliances to protect themselves. If we take a look at the map from before the war, we'll see that Europe was split into two main alliances. We had the Triple Alliance here in the Central Europe, which was made with Italy, Austria-Hungary, and Germany. And then we have the Triple Entente, which is Great Britain, France, and Russia, which is the alliance that the United States will eventually join when it enters the war later on. So then we have nationalism. So nationalism worldwide is becoming a mainstay. Nationalism is extreme pride in one's country. The people in these European countries are starting to really identify with the culture and the culture to the country. So, for example, all so like the Germans are really looking at, okay, we are the Germans, we are the best, right? And then the British are going, we are the British, we are the best. France doing the same, Russia doing the same, so on and so forth. This nationalism actually is the reason why Italy and Germany become the countries they are before the war. Before then, Germany and Italy were all split up into different smaller countries or states, right? Italy were divided really into city-states. Germany divided into smaller countries. So having this rise in nationalism also across Europe also makes it so that places like Serbia and the other Baltic states are not really happy that Austria-Hungary wants to annex them or take them over, or that they're being involved there to begin with. So this is going to be really important. This rise in nationalism for the last A in MAINIA. So Then we have imperialism. So this is when one country takes over another country economically and politically. Remember from last week, the reason why the United States wanted an empire is because in order to be a power on the world stage, for the people on the world stage to look at your country as if it's a major power, that power needs to be an imperial one, right? So this is true in Europe. So some countries really got into the imperialism game really quickly, and some countries got into the game rather late, like Germany, right? Germany and Italy both got into that imperialism power late because they weren't in of themselves uh, a full country yet, right? But now that they're unified, Germany is like, well, we want in on this imperialism game. And Great Britain was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Great Britain and mainly Great Britain and France were like, whoa, whoa, you can't do that in Africa. Why are you here? And then so that's starting some bickering back and forth. So with that in mind, right, we'll go to militarism, alliances, nationalism, and imperialism are really just happen over a longer period of time, and they are building this bonfire, right? That is going to be the war. And imperialism, nationalism, alliances, militarism, again, all of are like the long term causes. The last cause we're going to discuss today is assassination, which is the match that lights the bonfire for World War One to begin. And we'll talk about that more in depth here in a bit. So let's go ahead and talk about militarism. So World War One was the first war in which advanced weaponry and tactics were used. There was a race for creating more weapons of mass destruction among nations. There was a desire to create a large amount of weapons as well as building up a nation's army and navy. Um, Another part of this that's important to mention is that we are now starting to see the mass production of weapons of military goods that are able to be again mass produced because of the industrial revolution that's happening in Europe. So we're seeing all of these weapons, all of this ammunition, all of these things being stocked up, but not only stocked up, but they're being researched to make them better. Alliances. So there was two alliances: the Triple Alliance or the Central Powers, right, and then the Triple Entente. The Triple Alliance of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy was counterbalanced with the Triple Entente of France, Russia, and Great Britain. As a result, by 1907, Europe was divided into two armed and rather fearful camps. So here, with militarism, right, you're seeing all of these different countries building up these massive armies and these massive military arms caches. So with that in mind, they're afraid, right? They're afraid of one another. So they're going to look to the people that they have the most in common with, whether that's through cultural commonality or if they whatever threads that they have that connect one another, and they're going to form these alliances. So with these alliances formed, right? If one country was to go war with another, right, it would bring all of the other countries in on that war, right? So this one, I personally would argue is one of the important of the five causes because if let's say, right, France goes to war with Germany, well then that also brings in Russia and England, and then not only that, but Russia and England have to declare war on Germany, and then Germany has to declare war on them, and if Germany declares war on them, that brings in Italy and Austria-Hungary, and so on and so forth, and it's just a domino effect that will bring everyone to war. So again, we have the three countries here, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Italy, and then we have France, Russia, and Britain. They're not necessarily promised to help each other, but together they encircle Germany, Austria-Hungary. So that's important to notice. Okay, so again, we have these three alliances. They're going to go to war with one another after the last day assassination. So let's talk nationalism. So the French Revolution has spread nationalism throughout most of Europe. This is the idea that people with the same ethnic origins, language, and political ideals had the right to form sovereign states through the process of self determination. So, sovereign states. A sovereign state is a country that rules itself. It has its own form of government. It has uh, its own way of doing things. It is separate from other countries, right? And what the French Revolution had spread was this idea that all of these people who are similar, right, have the right to form those countries just because they are similar, right? And this is that main idea of early 20th century nationalism that really is really echoed today when we see nationalism. So nationalism really hasn't changed much, but it's adding the lighter fluid to the proverbial bonfire that we're going to start with World War One. Um, Nationalism was very strong in the Balkan area. So if we look at the map again, right, um, the Balkan area is here, um, just north of Greece and including part of Greece. Okay, and so nationalism amongst these areas are starting to really run high. But we have the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, who is trying to spread, who has spread and trying to spread even further its borders. And the people in these countries aren't liking that. So we go back to this, right? The Ottoman Empire ruled the Balkan area for 400 years. Again, the Balkans include the Albanians, Greeks, Romans, and the Slav. Each group was struggling for their own independence, right? Bosnia is an area of great hostility between the Austro-Hungarians, who have annexed Bosnia, and Serbia, as a newly independent state, thought that Bosnia should be one of its territories. So this became an area of conflict, an area of hey, that's my land. No, 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 that's our land. And the Hungarian Empire thought it had the right because it annexed it, but Serbia said, wait, those people are more like us, the Serbs, so they should be part of Serbia, and just back and forth, back and forth. So this hotbed of coals is really where things are going to spark up, and I'll talk about that later. Then we get into imperialism. So virtually all major powers were engaged in a scramble for empire to bolster their economies. The fiercest competition was between Britain and Germany, and between France and Germany. Again, Britain and France were both conquering Africa. They're in a thing called the Scramble for Africa, right? So then Germany, who's now its own country, wants to come and go, ooh, you know what? I'd like to have part of Africa too, because I want to bolster my economy. I want to be a world power, and this is the way to do it. And so the British and the French are like, no, no, Germany, you can't do that. This is our land. And this caused a lot of tension between the three countries. So, Great Britain, Germany, and France needed foreign markets after the increase in manufacturing caused by the Industrial Revolution. These countries competed for economic expansion in Africa, just like I said. The clash of France against Germany and Britain in North Africa, because the French had really taken North Africa for itself. In the Middle East, the crumbling Ottoman Empire was alluring to Austria-Hungary, the Balkans, and Russia. So we have those parts like, ooh, let's go take the Ottoman Empire. Let's go be the ones who own Turkey and all of those countries in the Middle East. And so again, fighting over this land in Europe, even though the land is not in Europe, but in fighting between European countries for this land is going to cause tensions to rise. Okay, so we looked at Africa, right? We have the French West Africa, Algeria, Libya, French Morocco, Spanish Morocco, Tunisia. So all of this is what Germany and France are fighting over. But then we see all in green all this British territory, right? So, and then the Germans are starting to put their stamp in Western Africa. So we have all of this fighting for Africa um, gain more land, to gain more resources, and to subjugate the land and resources and the people that are there. So This all is in the midst, and sorry, in the late 1800s and early 1900s. All of this is what's going on, and because of the infighting between Europe and European countries over Africa, we're going to see a lot of tensions rising. So we get to the spark. We get the thing that lights this bonfire. So we have, and that really is assassination. But let's quickly talk about nationalism again. So the Black Hand is a Serbian nationalist group, and their main objective was the creation by any means of a greater Serbia. Remember, Serbia really wants Bosnia, but Bosnia has been annexed by Austria. So these countries are really going over this land, right? And so the Black Hand makes a plan, and that plan is to assassinate Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austrian-Hungarian throne. So we have all of this land in the Balkans, right? We have, Bosnia here, Serbia's down here, Austria's there, Hungary's there. So we have all this land right here belongs to Austria-Hungary. And again, here's Bosnia, and we're going to look at the city of Sarajevo more particularly. So, Archduke Franz Ferdinand goes to Sarajevo on a tour, really, with his wife, because his land was recently annexed by them, and they're going there. It's like, oh, this is my land, this is our land. We're going to show our faces, yada yada yada. It's a horse and pony show, really, to reinforce the empire and the rule there. So Franz Ferdinand is there in Sarajevo on a car ride with the top of the car down, right? So you're seeing how this is like, ooh, this is going to be perfect for assassination. So, with that being in hand, the Black Hand makes this assassination attempt, and it fails at first, right? But then it works. June 28th, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand and Duchess Sophie of Sarajevo are assassinated, and this lights a domino effect. Okay. The reason why the Black Hand wanted to kill Franz Ferdinand was because they wanted Bosnia to belong to Serbia. The domino effect, like I said. So Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia for Ferdinand's death and declared war on Serbia. Then Germany pledged their support for Austria-Hungary. Russia pledged their support for Serbia. Germany declares war on Russia. France then pledges their support for Russia. Germany declares war on France. Germany invades Belgium on the way to France. Great Britain supports Belgium and declares war on Germany. So, by now, right, we have the war in Europe. World War I has begun. And the reason, again, even though the fighting happens fighting starts in Europe, the war starts in Europe, the reason why it's called a world war is because of the colonies that these imperialist European countries had, right? The fighting is going to go on in multiple different places around the world and include multiple different groups of people around the world because the British, the French, the Germans, and so on and so forth are forcing their colonized peoples to fight in the war for them. So it's going to be a huge mess. I love to teach about World War I because of the intricacies and the nuances. So if you have any questions or you want to talk about this further, feel free to email me or talk to me the next time you see me, and I can clear some things up for you. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Be safe, and I hope to see you guys on Wednesday. Goodbye.